Wet weather played havoc with the qualifying session at the Canadian Grand Prix, but Hayden Gullis was still able to make it back-to-back pole positions after beating Danny Kvyat and Carlos Sainz to the top spot. Both Red Bulls make it into the top 10, with Daniel Ricciardo getting his best start this season, qualifying in P4. Further down the grid, and Kimi Räikkönen outqualifies his teammate with a fantastic 6th position on the grid, with the other Finn of Valtteri Bottas also making it into Q3. After 69 races without a single point, Sauber changed that last time around at the Monaco Grand Prix, and they impressed here once again with Felipe Nasr just missing out on Q3, qualifying in 11th place. With the wet weather in Q1, Hülkenberg, Button and Palmer were all caught out by the drying track and were knocked out in the first qualifying session. That's your roundup of qualifying. Up next is the Canadian Grand Prix. What is up, people, and welcome back to part 70 of my F1 2016 career mode here at the Canadian Grand Prix. If you missed Season 1, Season 2, Season 3 and the first 6 rounds of Season 4, then you can go catch up with everything that's happened with this career mode so far with the card annotation in the top right corner of your screens. But last time out at the Monaco Grand Prix, what a race that was. Our 3rd race win of the season. Some fantastic overtakes on our teammate, which we already have a shaky relationship with at the moment. Some aggressive moves, but we gave him enough room and they were still very, very impressive moves. And that means that we now top the tables at the moment in the drivers' standings. Quite a huge margin as well. So we're doing pretty well in the drivers' championship, but it is still all to play for. We still have the likes of Carlos Sainz, Nico Hülkenberg and Fernando Alonso hunting us down. But we did manage to get pole position for today's race of 1:11.1. A great lap time here at the Canadian Grand Prix. But let's take a look at the starting grid ahead of today's race. So it's myself who qualifies in pole position with Danny Kvyat alongside me on the front row. Carlos Sainz could only manage a 2nd row start in P3, with Daniel Ricciardo getting a great qualifying session up into P4. On the 3rd row is Kevin Magnussen and Kimi Räikkönen, with the Ferrari driver getting his best qualifying session, I believe that is, all season. Pascal Wehrlein qualifies on the 4th row in 7th, with Max Verstappen right behind him in 8th. Fernando Alonso down in 9th. Disappointing qualifying session for him. He'll be looking to do better in today's race, with Valtteri Bottas alongside him on the 5th row of the grid, down in 10th position, just making it into the top 10. Good qualifying session though for the Williams driver, and a good qualifying session for Felipe Nasr, who qualifies in 11th place. On the 6th row alongside him is Nico Rosberg, who hasn't had the best of qualifying sessions recently either, so a good qualifying session there for the Mercedes driver. Marcus Ericsson, he lines up in 13th place on the grid. Sauber really did impress in the qualifying session yesterday. Roman Grosjean, he's in 4th, with Lewis Hamilton alongside him in 5th, with Esteban Gutierrez, the other Haas driver, down in 16th place. Then we have the drivers who got caught out with the wet weather in Q1. Nico Hülkenberg setting his time on the wet tyres. Everyone else setting their lap times on the intermediates, unfortunately. Jenson Button also down there in 18th. Jolyon Palmer down 19th. Sebastian Vettel 20th, with Rio Haryanto 21st. And Felipe Massa rounding out the back of the grid in 22nd place. There's your starting lineup then for today's Canadian Grand Prix. Let's head down to the track for the race strategy. This is going to be our race strategy then for today's race, starting on the ultra soft tyres and then moving on to the soft tyres around about lap 11. I think that's a good strategy to go for. However, those ultra soft tyres may not last, and if they don't, we may have to think about doing a 2-stop strategy. But if we've got the pace like we've shown in qualifying, then we could possibly be able to do that, get away from the rest of the field and just see how it goes. Our plan for turn 1, like Monaco, is just going to try to stay in front, try and get the inside line, get past Carlos Sainz and Danny Kvyat down towards turn 1. And if we can get turn 1 perfect, then we should be able to get the apex for turn 2 as well and not have to worry about the 2 drivers behind us. But anything can happen down in towards turn 1. We hope it doesn't, and we hope that we can stay in front of the other drivers. But let's head back to the starting grid for today's race. Here we are then on the grid for round 7 of Season 4. The lights coming on. It's 5. Red lights, lights out, and away we go for the Canadian Grand Prix. It's a great start compared to the Toro Rosso of Danny Kvyat. He has not had a good start at all, as he's been overtaken by Carlos Sainz and Kevin Magnussen down in towards turn 2. Great start from us though. Carlos Sainz lining up behind us, in 2nd place. It looks like Danny Kvyat has got back past the Renault driver of Kevin Magnussen as we go through the first chicane. Now Carlos Sainz very much on our tail at the moment as we go through these corners, but we're going to be defending as hard as we possibly can over this opening lap. The group is going to be really bunched together, so we need to make sure that we don't get drawn into any battles that we don't have to be in. So we just got to take it cautiously on this first lap, stay ahead of everybody else, don't make any mistakes, and try not to leave the door wide open for Carlos Sainz to take the position as we go down towards the hairpin. Now looks like Danny Kvyat could be going for the move on his teammate down in towards the hairpin. We've taken a wider line. Carlos Sainz has a little look up the inside, down towards that corner. Can't quite make it through just of yet now, as we're looking on board with Danny Kvyat, who's looking to try and overtake his teammate down in towards the final chicane. Can he get past him in towards the final corner? They're going side by side down in towards the Wall of Champions. Carlos Sainz, remember, is a champion. Will he be caught out into this corner? No, he hasn't. And it looks like both drivers have given each other enough room through that corner, so all the other drivers are getting through. Danny Kvyat once again going for the overtake down in towards turn 1 this time, and it looks like he's got more of his car alongside his teammate side by side through turn 2 down towards turns 3 and turns 4. And it looks like this time around Danny Kvyat has got a position, so making up ground after losing out off the start. He lost out to Carlos Sainz and Kevin Magnussen off the initial start, but has now managed to make his way back up into P2. And it looks like we've also got a bit of a gap there to Danny Kvyat, as there's a little lock-up from both the Mercedes and my teammates Nico Hulkenberg. Nico Hulkenberg having a little look up the inside there of Nico Rosberg there, but we're watching on board with the Sauber, which I believe is Marcus Ericsson here on lap 7 of the Canadian Grand Prix. He's looking to possibly go for an overtake on both Nico Hulkenberg and Nico Rosberg. Both the Nicos in one corner down in towards the final chicane. No, there's contact, and he's gone into the Wall of Champions. Marcus Ericsson, you are not a champion, but you've gone into that wall anyway, and it looks like he's parked his car on the middle of the tracks. We're watching on board with Nico Rosberg going side by side with Roman Grosjean. At the moment, there's contact as well between the two of those drivers. A lot of contact here on lap 7 of the Canadian Grand Prix. Nico Rosberg being sent onto the grass. Doesn't look like there's any damage on his car, unlike the Sauber of Marcus Ericsson. Here we are having a replay of what's happened. So Marcus Ericsson, great slipstream down in towards the final chicane, side by side with Nico Hulkenberg, and he just takes way too much curb, goes into the tyre of Nico Hulkenberg there, and just gets sent into the barrier. Loses a bit of damage on his front wing, but he may still be able to carry on without going into the pits. We're watching on board with Nico Rosberg. It's just a slight amount of contact. They lock up both of them going down towards that corner. The wheels are attached, and then there's just a slight little nudge there from Roman Grosjean on Nico Rosberg, and that unfortunately puts him into the walls. We're watching on board with myself, and we're deciding to come into the pits very, very early right now on lap 7. I said the ultra soft tyres may not last until lap 11, and I'm deciding, because I've got such a huge lead over the rest of the field at the moment. There is one of them getting past now, so we've literally only just dropped down into second place there. So we've got a huge lead over the rest of the field, and a 2.1 second stop there from the Force India team. A very nice pit stop indeed, but we're going to go for more of a two-stop strategy. Go onto the soft tyres and then go onto the ultra soft tyres at the end, or the super soft tyres, but most likely going to be going onto a set of ultra softs. So it looks like we come out in P5, so that just shows you the gap that we had over the rest of the field. We can make one pit stop and only go down to P5, so that is not too bad at all. So we're now hunting down the manor driver, of Pascal Wehrlein. Couldn't see who it was, but Pascal Wehrlein looks like he's just come into the pits, so that's going to gain us a position up into P4 now. We've got Kevin Magnussen ahead of us and both of the Toro Rosso drivers, so we're looking to try and get past both of those two as soon as we possibly can. As we come through the right, then the left of the final chicane. Another driver in the pits at the moment. I believe that is the Toro Rosso of Danny Kvyat right now. That is correct. And Carlos Sainz and Kevin Magnussen carry on for another lap. So this is lap 11. So this is the time that we were supposed to be coming into the pits. But at the moment, we're going to have a free pit stop over the rest of the fields. We're following behind Kevin Magnussen and Carlos Sainz, who come into the pits, but that catches us up just a little bit as we have to cut across the chicane, losing a bit of time though, locking up and also getting some more damage on our tyres. So not the best thing to do that, but we didn't really cut the corner there. We didn't gain any time from that, so not really too much of a worry. But we are now back up into the lead of this Canadian Grand Prix. We are watching the battle for 11th now on board with, I believe this is Felipe Massa, the two Red Bulls, Fernando Alonso and the Renault of Jolyon Palmer. I believe that is, as the Red Bull tries to go around the outside of the chicane. That's going to put them both under pressure from the other Red Bull that's behind him. I'm not too sure which one's in front at the moment. I think Max Verstappen's in front, then it's Daniel Ricciardo just behind him in 13th place. Fernando Alonso now has a little look up the inside in towards turn 1, round the outside of turn 2. Can he make the position down in towards turn 3 now? Fernando Alonso going round the outside, still holding it around the outside of the first chicane, side by side at the moment between the two of them. But it looks like Fernando Alonso has finally got position over Daniel Ricciardo and takes that away from him. Felipe Massa still holding on to 11th place with Max Verstappen just behind him. And now watching on board the battle between Daniel Ricciardo and Jolyon Palmer. The Red Bull not as quick as the Renault at the moment at this stage of career mode, as it looks like Jolyon Palmer goes up the inside down in towards turn 1, sorry, round the outside in towards turn 1, holding it up the inside in towards turn 2, can't quite get his nose in front there, and Daniel Ricciardo will hold on to position through that corner. Unfortunately, Julian Palmer not able to go for the overtake, as we're watching on board with the manor driver of Pascal Wehrlein. He's currently going side by side with Lewis Hamilton as he goes into the barrier, loses his front right tyre here at the Canadian Grand Prix, and that is his race over. Pascal Wehrlein out of today's Canadian Grand Prix. Very, very disappointing for him. He started in 7th place. He probably had a very good chance of getting some decent points here today for Manor, but unfortunately that is not going to be the case. He is now out of today's race. And the virtual safety car has been deployed, and that means that we are going to decide to come into the pits and go onto a set of soft tyres which will last us till the end of the race. So I decided to go onto a set of soft tyres. I think this is probably the best call to go for at the moment. We've got such a huge lead over the rest of the field, and while the virtual safety car is out, we won't lose as much time compared to if we went for a pit stop later on in the race. So we are going to be on slightly slower tyres, but we are going to come back at the end of the race, and we're going to be able to hold these tyres till the end of the race as well. So that is the important thing. We're going to be able to make the tyres last as we come out in P3, so that's pretty decent. Only the 2 Toro Rosso drivers have got ahead of us. Unfortunately, we had to slow down quite a bit there as I went very quickly out of the pit lane exit and got caught out by the virtual safety car timer. But here's a replay on board Pascal Wehrlein. So there is Lewis Hamilton shooting out of the pit lane on the left hand side. So they go side by side down in towards turn 3 now. Pascal Wehrlein gave Lewis Hamilton maybe a bit too much room here through the chicane. Yes, he could have taken a bit more to the left, and unfortunately puts his car into the wall and completely destroys his front right tyres. We're watching on board with my teammate Nico Hülkenberg. The virtual safety car has now come in, and he is right behind Fernando Alonso, battling for position right now. Nico Hülkenberg, no, sorry, that's Jenson Button, as he goes up the inside into the hairpin. There's contact. He's locked up into the hairpin. They both go into the barrier as well. What on earth are they doing? Both the cars have been locked onto each other, and Nico Hülkenberg has pretty much taken out Jenson Button here at the Canadian Grand Prix. Very, very disappointment there from Nico Hülkenberg. He's making his way back up from 17th place. He was doing a good job, in fact, all the way from 17th, make his way back through the field. But unfortunately, that's not going to happen here today, as he's now made contact with Jenson Button, put each other into the barrier, as we're watching on board with Julian Palmer. Green flag at the moment down towards the sector. The yellow flag is down the hairpin, as we're still watching on board with Julian Palmer going side by side with the Red Bull. I think that's still Daniel Ricciardo, as now he's gone into the barrier as well. So much carnage going on here at today's Canadian Grand Prix. Front wings going everywhere, as Julian Palmer has now got to do a whole entire lap without front wings. A disappointment for him, as we're watching on board a replay with Nico Hülkenberg. So he goes up the inside, just locks up a bit too much into the path of Jenson Button. Both of them just get caught in each other, going round the outside of the hairpin. There's Jenson Button still just trying to turn in, just trying to hope that he doesn't go into the barrier, but unfortunately it makes it worse, and that's his race over. We're back on board with myself here on lap 21. So we've now caught up to the back of Carlos Sainz. We go down in towards the final chicane. Will we pull over to the right hand side? Yes, we do. And it's just an easy maneuver on Carlos Sainz, but no, it's not. He comes back at us down in towards the final chicane, side by side. We give each other enough room through there, and that was good racing from the both of us. Give each other enough room, go side by side through the chicane, but in the end we have taken 2nd place, and now we are on the hunt for Danny Kvyat as we watch a replay on board with Julian Palmer this time around, down in towards the final chicane. So he goes side by side with Daniel Ricciardo. It looks like Daniel Ricciardo just took too much of the curb and catapulted himself into Julian Palmer. We do get a replay on board with Daniel Ricciardo. So let's just have a little look of what's happened here. And yes, he did. He just took too much of the curb, flew over it. He had no wheels touching the ground at that point, and unfortunately that just put him straight into the path of Julian Palmer. It's a disappointment there for the Renault driver. But here we are on board with myself once again on lap 25, right behind Danny Kvyat this time around in the battle for 1st position. Can we take away the lead of the Grand Prix? I don't think Danny Kvyat has to make any more pit stops in this race. He doesn't have to make any mandatory unless there's any damage or anything like that. But side by side down in towards the chicane, once again Danny Kvyat is coming back at us, but this time around we have got the position before we've got to the exit of the chicane, and that was much better compared to what we've done to Carlos Sainz. So there we go, back up into the lead of the race, but we do have to be aware of Danny Kvyat because he will be right behind us, especially if we run wide like that. But not too bad at the moment, and here we are cutting ahead to the end of lap 27. Danny Kvyat still very much on my tail, and he'll be looking to get back past us as he's following through in the slipstream, goes up the inside down in towards the final hairpin there, sorry, as we get a little bit of a switch up move on Danny Kvyat, go back up the inside and retake the lead of the race. So a very cheeky overtake there from myself, going wide to cut back and get the inside line on Danny Kvyat, but side by side once again down in towards the final chicane. Danny Kvyat has the inside line this time around. I'm going to brake a little bit earlier, try and get the cutback move on him, but he's locked up and gone straight into the barrier, giving us nowhere else to go. We go into the back of him, damage our front wing. The front left is completely gone on our front wing, which means that we have to go into the pits for a new set of ultra soft tyres. It looks like Carlos Sainz may have gone into the back of Danny Kvyat as well, as we're following right behind both of the Toro Rosso drivers at the moment. And we'll be looking to get past both of these as soon as we possibly can. Danny Kvyat, I don't believe he has any front wing remaining at all. So he is definitely holding up Carlos Sainz. It just depends on whether we are fast enough through the corners. As you can see there, definitely had to lift off through that corner, otherwise we would have gone into the barrier. But we are now right behind Carlos Sainz and Danny Kvyat. So if we can get past both these drivers and take the lead of the race, then that would be very good, especially as all three of us do have to come into the pits. Kevin Magnussen, though, he's definitely going to gain from this. He is right on our tail on the same strategy as all of us and doesn't have to make another pit stop, whereas we now do. You know, our strategy played out that we wouldn't have to make another pit stop because we weren't supposed to. As we go up the inside, lock up, and we've gone into Carlos Sainz, giving ourselves a front right puncher. Fortunately, we don't have that far to go to get back up into the pits, but just a bit of a reckless dive bomb move up the inside. A bit impatient there to go up the inside of Carlos Sainz, just locked up because of that front wing damage as well. And unfortunately, we've got a front left puncher, so that's going to add to our front wing damage change as we come into the pits. So it looks like we're now going to get overtaken by a Ferrari of, is that Kimi Räikkönen? Yes, it is. Kimi Räikkönen doing a fantastic job at the moment in this race, up into P5, I believe that is now. As we come in, no, he's in P4s. We are currently in P5, coming into the pits for our third pit stop in this race. Was not expecting to make 3 pit stops, but unfortunately we're going to have to do that, going onto a set of ultra soft tyres. Looks like the two Toro Rosso drivers are holding each other up in the pits. I think that Carlos Sainz did manage to get past Danny Kvyat at the end, so Danny Kvyat got held up by his teammate. Both of us having to get a new front wing as we come into the pits. So it looks like we have got the jump on the Toro Rosso driver, moving up into P11 at the moment. So unfortunately there for Danny Kvyat to lose out to us. But here we are on the exit of the pit lane, and it's an 8.3 second stop, so really slow pit stop there from the team, having to get a new front wing. Here's a replay on board with Danny Kvyat, so watching exactly what happened down in towards that final chicane. Side by side at the moment, Danny Kvyat has the inside line, doesn't run too much on the curb, turns in fine, but just locks up his front right tyre, just keeps on going and just goes straight into the barrier. And unfortunately we had nowhere to go because he was blocking up the whole track, and unfortunately that just meant that we went straight into the back of him. Here's on board with Carlos Sainz, and he just follows suit, goes straight into the back of Danny Kvyat, not expecting how slow both of us were going. And as you can see, that Carlos Sainz completely destroyed his front wing. But now we are on the back of Lewis Hamilton and Rio Haryanto, just outside the point still, but battling for 10th and 9th position. Up the inside there of Lewis Hamilton, a nice little move up the inside of the Mercedes driver, taking away P10 and getting back up into the points. Now Lewis Hamilton will be disappointed with that, as we're on board with the Sauber of Marcus Ericsson. He scored his first points for Sauber last time out at the Monaco Grand Prix, and unfortunately this time around he's not going to be scoring points. He has an engine failure, his engine is gone, and that's put him out of today's race. We go up the inside now of Rio Haryanto. It looks like we are going to get a position, squeezing him out on the exit of the corner, and there we go, taking back that position on Rio Haryanto, getting up into P9 at the moment. So running okay, but we need to keep on making up positions. We're watching on board now with Esteban Gutierrez and Nico Rosberg to go through the final chicane. Nico Rosberg is going to have some nice slipstream down in towards turn 1. Will he go for the overtake in towards this corner? No, there's a little bit of contact. There's more contact. They've gone into the wall. Nico Rosberg has gone upside down here at the Canadian Grand Prix. So much drama late on in today's race. Nico Rosberg went upside down, disappeared out of our view. We're definitely going to need to see a replay of what on earth happened there, as we're watching on board myself once again, trying to make my way through the field in this Canadian Grand Prix of that damage, right behind the Red Bull of Daniel Ricciardo now. Up the inside, down in towards the final hairpin. Nice little move up the inside of the hairpin there. and moving up into P8 as we follow behind the Ferrari of Sebastian Vettel this time around. So we'll be looking to try and get P7 very, very shortly down in towards the final chicane, but unfortunately cannot get it there. So here's a replay of what happened between these two drivers. Nico Rosberg following behind Esteban Gutierrez. So where did he get sent it up into the air? He goes into the back of him, just a little bit of contact, sends his car into the air. It's upside down all the way along the barrier, and just avoiding coming back onto the track there. But that was absolutely amazing. Nico Rosberg's car being sent upside down. There's contact on board with Esteban Gutierrez, and you could just see Nico Rosberg's front wing not where it's supposed to be at all. And unfortunately, Nico Rosberg and Esteban Gutierrez, I believe, are out of that race. Gutierrez definitely out of the race with the front right tyre going, as Nico Rosberg then goes upside down. That's going to make you feel dizzy right there. Still flying upside down and just avoiding coming back onto the track. He has no wheels off his car and still has most of his front wing intact. Somehow, I don't know how that's happened, but somehow it has, as we're now trying to get past Sebastian Vettel on the right-hand side. It's an easy move there on the Ferrari driver down in towards the final chicane. And very, very quick on these old soft tyres through that final chicane. Just look at the speed that we carried through that final chicane as we now catch up to Max Verstappen in the other Red Bull, currently in 6th place. This is the battle for 6th position here with 2 laps left to go in this Canadian Grand Prix. We're just trying to claw back as many points as we possibly can in this race, especially after that contact. I think Carlos Sainz is running a solid race at the moment, maybe up in P3, side by side though with Max Verstappen up the inside in towards this chicane. And just look at the speed that we have compared to the Red Bull. Look at the gap that we already have to Max Verstappen out of that corner, because we're on so much fresher, faster tyres. And here we are starting the final lap of the race, getting past Kimi Raikkonen, who comes into the pits on the final lap of the race. Not too sure why he's doing that, because he's going to lose out so much time to the rest of the field. But Kimi Raikkonen has come into pits. That puts us up into P5. But it's going to be a great race, though, for Kevin Magnussen. He's really pretty much done nothing at all in today's race. He's got very lucky with the contact between myself, Carlos Sainz and Danny Kvyat. But let's not take that away from me. He's had a fantastic race in today's Canadian Grand Prix. He's come down towards the line to take the checker flag. So race win for Renault once again in season 4. A great result for Kevin Magnussen, and especially adding to the disappointment that he's had so far this season. So that's really good for Kevin Magnussen. We're going to come home in 5th place. We've got Kimi Raikkonen right on our tail after making that late pit stop. He is right on our tail on those old soft tyres. But nevertheless, we're going to take home to P5. It's okay. It's not too bad. We would have preferred to get the race win. The engineer not happy with us, but I'm not too disappointed at all. Such a crazy race there then at the Canadian Grand Prix. Kevin Magnussen is today's race winner. Maybe slightly disappointed that we came home in 5th place, but, you know, that comeback drive was really, really good, so I can definitely be happy about that. Thinking about the positives, you know, we came back from 11th and finished in P5, so that is a really, really nice result. And only 19 seconds off Kevin Magnussen at the end of the day. Unfortunately, we could not catch up to Carlos Sainz. And Romain Grosjean also getting onto the podium. A good result there for the Haas driver. So it's Kevin Magnussen who wins today's race. Carlos Sainz finishing in 2nd after that collision with myself and Danny Kvyat. Romain Grosjean finishes in 3rd. Fernando Alonso, one of our other championship rivals, finishes ahead of us in 4th, and myself in 5th. Kimi Raikkonen comes back after making that late pit stop to finish in 6th place, with Sebastian Vettel 7th. Nico Hülkenberg, after starting 17th on the grid, having that collision with Jenson Button, finishes in 8th, with Danny Kvyat down in 9th, and Rio Haryanto rounding out the top 10 and getting the final championship point in today's race. Lewis Hamilton finishes a little bit further down the field, just outside the points. Disappointing there for the Mercedes driver, finishing in 11th, with Jolyon Palmer, after being in the wars in today's race, you've got to say, down in 12th position as well. Looking further down the field, then the likes of Max Verstappen down in 13th place. You also have Felipe Massa 14th, Valtteri Bottas 15th. Jenson Button, after having that collision with Nico Hülkenberg, finishes down in 16th, with Felipe Nasr after qualifying up in 11th. Unfortunately, only finishing the race in 17th place. Dan Ricciardo down in 18th, with Nico Rosberg at 19th. Then you have Esteban Gutierrez, Marcus Ericsson, and Pascal Wehrlein not finishing in today's race. Somehow, though, Nico Rosberg was able to carry on despite going upside down. Despite going upside down in today's race, he was able to finish it. Not too sure how that works out, but well done to the Mercedes driver nevertheless. Driver standings now, and the gap has come down to 9 points after Carlos Sainz got second to our 5th place here today. Looks like Fernando Alonso has also closed up the gap to us, 32 points though. It's still a huge margin, but if he has a good string of races and we have a bad couple of races, then he can certainly catch up that gap. Nico Hülkenberg not closing in at all. He has dropped down to 28 points behind us, which is really good news for us. And it looks like at the moment if it is going to be a four-way battle, it's not going to be any more than that. I don't see Kevin Magnussen, Rio Haryanto getting involved in the championship battle at the moment, and the likes of Sebastian Vettel and further down, they are definitely out of it, including Dani Kvyat, who has not had a good start to the season. So disappointing for him. He could have been in the championship battle, but it's just not been his season so far. Constructors standings then, at 170 points over Toro Rosso's 129. 45 points is the gap. I think the gap has come down just a little bit, but we still have such a huge margin over Toro Rosso at this stage of the season, which is really good. Renault jump above Manor in the standings, and it looks like Haas have jumped above Red Bull, getting that podium here today. Red Bull need to get some serious results if they want to challenge with the likes of Mercedes and Ferrari, where they should be battling, but all those teams really should be putting some upgrades on their car to try and challenge with the likes of Force India, Toro Rosso and McLaren, who are actually battling for the championship at this stage of the season. That is it then for today's Canadian Grand Prix. If you have enjoyed the episode, don't forget to smash that like button. Also, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Don't forget to share it with all your friends as well. And I will see you next time at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. But until then, it's goodbye from me.